If you're a freelancer and you just pulled an envelope from the IRS marked CP2000, your stomach probably dropped about 6 inches. Take a breath. That letter is not an audit. It's not even close to an audit. But the way most freelancers respond to it, panic, pay the number at the bottom, or ignore it entirely, costs them thousands of dollars they didn't actually owe. Here's the part nobody tells you. The IRS sent out roughly 5.3 million CP2000 notices in a recent fiscal year, according to the Taxpayer Advocate's annual report to Congress. 5.3 million. And the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, the watchdog office that audits the IRS itself, has flagged that a meaningful chunk of the proposed assessments on these notices get adjusted down or wiped out once the taxpayer actually responds. Meaning, the number the IRS prints in that letter is frequently wrong, and the people who write back are the ones who don't pay it. So why does this letter hit 1099 earners harder than anyone else? And what's the actual move when one shows up in your mailbox? Let's talk about what a CP2000 actually is, because the name is doing you no favors. CP2000 is not a bill. It's not an audit notice. It is a proposed adjustment generated by an IRS computer system called the Automated Underreporter Program, AUR for short. What AUR does is pretty simple. It takes every 1099, every W-2, every 1099-K, every 1099 NEC, every brokerage 1099-B that got reported to the IRS under your Social Security number, and it matches those documents against what you actually put on your tax return. If the totals don't line up, a letter gets generated. No human reviewed it. No agent looked at your situation. A computer noticed a mismatch and spat out a proposed tax bill. That distinction matters enormously, and this is the part I want you to really hear. An audit is when a human at the IRS decides to examine your return. A CP2000 is when a computer decides your math doesn't match its math. Those are completely different animals, and they require completely different responses. According to the IRS's own data book for the most recent year available, individual audit rates are sitting at around 0.4%. CP2000 notices go out at roughly 10 times that volume. You are far, far more likely to get one of these than to ever be audited, and freelancers get them disproportionately because we have more 1099s floating around with our name on them. Now, here's where it gets specifically painful for gig workers. Picture a typical year. You drove for one rideshare platform, did some Upwork projects, took on 2 direct clients who paid you over $600 each, sold some old camera gear on a marketplace that issued a 1099-K, and maybe had a brokerage account that spit out a 1099-B for some stock you sold. That's potentially 5 or 6 separate information returns the IRS received under your social. If you missed even one, say the client who paid you in December and mailed the 1099 to an old address, the AUR system sees unreported income and proposes tax on the entire gross amount. Not the net, the gross. With no deductions, no business expenses, no mileage, nothing. And that's exactly why these letters scare freelancers so badly. The number at the bottom is calculated as if you're a W-2 employee who got that money as pure income. If a CP2000 says you forgot to report $18,000 from a delivery app, the IRS proposes tax on the full 18 grand, plus self-employment tax, plus interest, plus a 20% accuracy-related penalty under Section 6662 if they decide the underreporting was substantial. I've seen freelancers get letters proposing they owe $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 when the actual tax due. Once you factor in their mileage, their phone, their portion of home office, their health insurance deduction, was closer to $800. Same income. Wildly different tax. So here's my take, and I'll just say it straight. Do not pay the number on a CP2000 without responding. The right move is almost always to write back. The letter itself gives you a response form and usually 30 days to reply. You check the box that says you disagree, you attach a corrected Schedule C showing the income they're asking about plus the legitimate business expenses against it, and you mail it back with a short cover letter. That's it. That's the whole play in most cases. Let me walk you through what that looks like with real numbers, because I think this is where people freeze up. Say the IRS sends you a CP2000 claiming you didn't report $22,000 of 1099 NEC income from a client. Their proposed additional tax by the time they stack income tax in the 22% bracket, self-employment tax at 15.3%, and a penalty comes out to something like 6,200 bucks. Sounds catastrophic, but you actually did the work from a home office. You drove about 4,000 business miles that year. You paid for software subscriptions. You paid for a co-working day pass habit, and you had health insurance premiums you were paying out of pocket as a self-employed person. Run the real numbers. 4,000 miles at the IRS standard mileage rate for 2024 of 67 cents a mile is $2,680 of deduction right there. Add maybe $1,500 in software and subscriptions, $800 in home office under the simplified method. That's the $5 per square foot calculation, capped at $1,500. And say $4,000 in self-employed health insurance. Your net Schedule C profit on that 22 grand drops to around 12,000. The actual tax owed, including SE tax, is probably closer to $2,400. You just saved yourself 3,800 bucks by responding instead of paying. That's a real number for a real situation, and it's the entire reason this video exists. Now, let me hit the edge cases because there are a few that trip people up badly. The first one is the 1099K trap. If you sold personal stuff on a platform, old furniture, a used lens, concert tickets at face value, and got a 1099K, the IRS sees that as income. It's not necessarily. Personal items sold at a loss aren't taxable, but you have to tell the IRS that in your response. The new 1099K threshold has been bouncing around. The American Rescue Plan tried to drop it to $600. The IRS has delayed implementation multiple times, and for 2024, the threshold sat at $5,000 in aggregate payments, according to IRS Notice 2023-74. That means more freelancers than ever are getting these forms for what they thought were personal transactions. If you get a CP2000 driven by a 1099K from selling your old gear, the response is to report the gross on Schedule 1, then back it out as personal items sold at a loss on the same form. Done correctly, zero tax. The second edge case, cost basis on a 1099B. If you sold crypto or stock and the brokerage didn't report your cost basis to the IRS, the AUR system assumes your basis was zero. So a $5,000 Bitcoin sale gets treated as $5,000 of capital gain instead of maybe $400 of actual gain. The fix is the same pattern. Respond, attach Form 8949 with the real basis, done. The third one, and this is the one that genuinely hurts people, is the deadline. You have 30 days from the date on the letter, not the date you opened it. Miss that window, and the proposed assessment becomes a statutory notice of deficiency, which is a different beast called a 90-day letter. At that point, your options narrow, and your only real path to dispute it without paying first is filing a petition in U.S. tax court. So when the envelope shows up, open it that day, not next weekend. I work with 1099 earners on tax and retirement strategy, and I'll tell you the pattern I see over and over. Freelancer gets the letter, freezes for 3 weeks, then either ignores it or panic pays. Both are wrong. The IRS is not your enemy here. They're a slow, automated bureaucracy that responds well to paperwork. Send the paperwork. The accuracy-related penalty under Section 6662 only applies if you can't substantiate your position. So, substantiate it. Attach the receipts. Attach the mileage log. Attach the bank statements that show the software subscriptions. The AUR unit's entire job is to match documents, and when you give them documents that explain the mismatch, the proposed assessment usually gets reduced or zeroed out. One more thing on the just write it off myth, because it connects directly to CP2000 risk. Aggressive deductions don't trigger CP2000s. Those are mismatch letters driven by income reporting. But aggressive deductions on top of an income mismatch are what turn a routine CP2000 into a referral to a real examiner. So the play is boring and disciplined. Report every dollar of 1099 income, deduct every legitimate business expense, and keep the receipts in a folder you could hand to a human in under 10 minutes. That's the posture that makes these letters non-events. I'm not a licensed CPA or financial advisor. This is general education for freelancers, not personalized advice. If this helped clarify what to actually do with that letter sitting on your kitchen counter, hit subscribe. I put out practical tax and money playbooks for solo workers every other day. And if there's a specific IRS letter, freelance deduction, or 1099 situation you'd like me to break down next, drop it in the comments. I read them, and the questions there shape what I cover. This video may contain affiliate links. I only recommend tools I use personally.